A Florida restaurant is serving up some holiday cheer by playing Christmas music for their patrons. But not all the customers are loving it down in Florida. One patron left this note on the back of the receipt, writing, quote, "Christmas music was offensive. Consider playing holiday music or less religious themed." The owner posted the note online, and it is now going viral. Michael Lugo is the owner of Michael's Tasting Room, and he joins us live now. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, so the server gets that note on the back of the receipt, shows it to you. What was your first reaction?
It was a little, crazy because you start thinking, God, now Christmas, everyone's a critic about everything you do in the restaurant business, so we understand that, and it comes in with the territory. But, the poor staff, anytime they get any notes in the back, they kind of always take it to heart. So they brought it to me, and when I look at it, just the first thing I say is, man, I know that we're going to be criticized about, something service-related, food-related or something, but now the Christmas music. So I just told her, I said, don't worry about this. We'll let the people give you your opinions on this. And we literally just took a quick little snap of it and left it at that. And then before you know it, man, we were getting emails from people all over. Some people asking us not to play it. They were coming to dinner that weekend. Some people saying that please keep playing it. And we, as a restaurant, we're in the middle of the nation's oldest city in St. Augustine, which celebrates the Christmas holiday wholeheartedly. We have famous nights of lights that starts in November, ends in January. Our restaurant is right in the heart of the historic district. So we embrace it. We've been in business 10 years, and people come from all over. Millions of visitors come during the holidays and really enjoy the city for its holiday festivities. So, to us, it's part of the traditions that I think keep on getting washed away in America. Yeah, so the majority of folks that are writing on social media, what are they saying? They love it. I've never seen so much encouragement. I mean, our Facebook feed, our emails from the restaurant, everything. People are like, please, keep it up. Thank you for taking a stand. And Are you going to keep it up? Oh, yeah. I mean, we made that decision when we put that note. To us, Christmas is Christmas. I'm a Christian, but that's not my agenda. But, at the end of the day, we celebrate things in America, and traditions, I think, is what makes us special. And, from our holidays, it's what brings family together, friends, traditions. I think that those are the things that we keep losing when we keep forgetting about holidays. I know our viewers agree with you. Have you seen more customers coming into your restaurant as a result? It's a great time of year for us this time of year during the Christmas holidays, because we're pretty busy as it is. But we squeezed in a lot of reservations this weekend that didn't have reservations. It's Michael's. We start this morning with a Fox News alert. Fox sources confirming that President-elect Donald Trump is set to nominate that guy right there, Rex Tillerson, as the Secretary of State. Well, the announcement is set to come in a couple of days, we are told, but critics already pouncing on the current ExxonMobil CEO.
And let's just factor in Donald Trump could change his mind at the last minute, but let's say he doesn't. Kristen Fisher live in D.C. with the latest. Kristen, what do we know about this, and why are the critics so fired up?
Well, Mr. Trump says that he likes Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State for the very same reasons that his critics dislike him. He likes that Tillerson is a businessman and not a career diplomat. He likes that he's made big deals with Russia, and he likes that he knows and has been friendly with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
He's much more than a business executive. I mean, he's a world-class player. He's in charge of, I guess, the largest company in the world. It's been a company that's been unbelievably managed. And to me, a great advantage is he knows many of the players.
But Republican Senator John McCain and Democratic Senator Ben Cardin are just two of the many critics arguing that Tillerson's close ties to Russia are actually a disadvantage.
It's a matter of concern to me that he has such a close personal relationship with Vladimir Putin.
I am concerned about his relationship with Russia. We want to make sure that the Secretary of State is a person who represents America.
Now, today, Mr. Trump will be meeting with Idaho Congressman Raul Labrador and West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. He'll also be meeting with two of his former rivals, Rick Santorum and Carly Fiorina. So, once again, the president-elect is proving to be predictably unpredictable. And who knows, he could change his mind about Secretary of State. But as of now, two sources close to the transition team say that Mr. Trump has made up his mind, and it's Rex Tillerson. Brian, Ainsley, and Steve.
Well, there you go. All right, Kristen, thank you very much. Now, let's bring in, also from our nation's capital, Tucker Carlson, who joins us live. Good morning to you, Tucker.
Hey, Tucker.
Oh, good morning.
Tucker, I was driving around on Friday, and I heard you tangling with the Washington Post conservative columnist, Jennifer Rubin. She had, and we're not going to play a snippet of that program. It was great. However, the next day, she was actually over on MSNBC, and she was talking about the kinds of people who Donald Trump is populating his cabinet with. Listen to this, then Tucker's take.
I wish I could say that Ben Carson was the only person who didn't have experience in his area, but as you mentioned, Tillerson, we also have Terry Branstad, who is the ambassador to China. He's been the governor of Iowa. We have, and I like her, I think she's smart, Nikki Haley, terrific person, but she is going to the UN. Does she have any foreign policy experience? So I think what we have are ignoramuses, billionaires, and a few generals.
Yeah, I wonder why. I think that's pretty fair.
I mean, look, this is the main problem that I have, not just with Jennifer Rubin, but with this whole style of argument. It's not really argument, it's name-calling. So rather than address the specific policies or the disagreements that you have, you dismiss them as either immoral or beneath even addressing, right? I'm not even going to go there. Those people are just disgusting. They're racist. They're dumb. They have too much money. Let's move on. That's the first problem. The second problem is she never makes an affirmative case for her own beliefs. And that's one of the reasons that her whole wing of the Republican Party was swept aside by Donald Trump, because they were pretty good at attacking him, but they weren't good at explaining why you ought to go along with what they think. I mean, they didn't sort of debate, they didn't argue on their own behalf. They didn't bother.
Well, you've seen them argue against each other in their arguments sometimes go against their argument. So if you bring in somebody different, well, wait a second, they're not qualified. If you bring in someone that's done it before, I thought you were draining the swamp. You can't have it, but if you bring in someone that's successful, I thought you were going to bring in something new. Why are you going with so many billionaires? Because they became billionaires and they want to help the country now? They don't even see the other side of this.
Well, exactly. And by the way, I believe in debate, so I think every candidate ought to be vetted by a robust and smart and independent press. So, like, tell me what you think is wrong with Rex Tillerson or whomever. But to just dismiss out of hand those people without addressing what they think is not an effective way to do that. And it just shows the kind of intellectual laziness and rot that is set in Washington. Like, nobody has a real conversation.
All right, also with the Washington Post, there is one unnamed source they're saying that has said that Donald Trump, that Russia helped Donald Trump win the election. Donald Trump emphatically said that is not true when he was interviewing with Chris Wallace yesterday. Take a listen to this and we'll get your reaction.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it. I don't know why. And I think it's just, they talked about all sorts of things. Every week it's another excuse. We had a massive landslide victory, as you know, in the Electoral College. I guess the final numbers are now at 306, and she, down to a very low number. No, I don't believe that at all. I think the Democrats are putting it out because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in the history of politics in this country. And frankly, I think they're putting it out, and it's ridiculous. We ought to get back to making America great again, which is what we're going to do.
Do you understand his point of view here?
I mean, look, I don't understand the argument itself. I don't think anybody dismisses the idea that Russia was hacking servers or email accounts in the United States. They've done it for years, so have the Chinese. The question is, did that sway the election results? And if it did, how exactly? No, this is a sincere question. How exactly did Russia throw the election for Donald Trump? And the allegation appears to be they hacked John Podesta's emails. By the way, that's not proved. They're claiming it is. It's not. But let's just say they did. What does that mean? It means that voters got more information than they would have had otherwise. It's not a defense of hacking. It's merely an observation of reality. Voters knew things they wouldn't have known otherwise. Are they really arguing that voters ought to have had less information? I mean, the problem, again, is not fake news. It's real news. Nobody disputes that the WikiLeaks stuff was real. So, like, is that bad?
And Tucker, what did they reveal initially? It was what was going on inside the Democratic Party. How Hillary Clinton stacked the deck against Bernie Sanders and everybody else.
And how
she could be coronated.
And how she used a personal server and wanted to blame Russia for hacking when she was she can only blame herself for doing that.
Well, that's so they're arguing that voters should have had less information when they voted. You really want to argue that in public? And Ainsley, your point is a great one. If you're concerned about cybersecurity, here you had a candidate who was putting America's secrets at risk, and certainly her own information at risk. And again, I'm not arguing for hacking. I'd be terrified if my email got hacked, but that's just true.
Steve, just one thing. There's nothing Ainsley could ever do wrong to Tucker. So when he says it's just more par for the course.
That's why we have him on. I just need that.
Ainsley,
Every day.
point. We asked 3 questions, not any type of congratulatory statement, but we'll talk about that later.
In your next answer, Tucker, will you please just pat Ryan on the back?
Let me try this. Hey, Tucker,
it's fragile.
Energy Department employees are now getting a questionnaire, I think 74 questions, on their view, essentially, of climate change. How do you feel about that? Is that too much of an intrusion, or does it tell you what Donald Trump's approach is?
Yeah, you'd hate to want your employees to carry out the policies you were elected on. I mean, this is the most hilarious story ever. The idea that federal employees should not, again, reveal what they think, reveal what they're doing. I mean, Trump, as the Democrats are fond of saying, elections have consequences. Trump was elected on a certain platform. He won, and now apparently they're in the process of trying to get the federal bureaucracy to do his bidding, which is their job. And that's somehow out of bounds. Because, by the way, on the question of climate, this is not a policy debate. This is a religious debate.
Sure.
And on the one side, you have people who believe that any deviation from the one true faith, from the catechism, is immoral. You're an apostate. I mean, they're speaking purely in religious terms, not scientific terms. And so this is like a prima facie outrage. Really? Why?
Right. And there's one interesting nugget that you can discern if you take a look at the questions, and that is, it looks as if there's going to be a shift toward nuclear power in this next administration,
that's
which,
true.
you know, that's what Europe's all about.
Clean.
Well, by the way, it's what look, I'm a hunter and a fisherman. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm totally against pollution, adamantly. If you're worried about pollution, by the way, if you're worried about carbon, probably shouldn't be as worried as they are, but let's say you are. Why is nuclear a bad idea?
Yeah,
Nobody can really answer that question. It's a pure knee-jerk reaction.
All right.
Well, the good news for the fish is you're not a very good fisherman, so a lot of them survive.
No, not at all. Not at all. I throw them all back.
Yeah.
See, this is why he doesn't like you.
Right. I'm just saying, I just want to make fish feel better.
All right, Tucker.
Can I take one last point? Ainsley, you're great. And I mean
great,
that.
too.
You are great, Ainsley.
You know
Thank
what? We have. So that is Tucker's take. And watch Tucker Carlson tonight, 7 o'clock, Monday through Friday.
I guess if you're not doing
Ainsley.
anything else.
All right.
And you guys too.
All right.
Thanks for waking up early for us.
Meanwhile, this is a Fox News alert. Fox News has just learned that General John Kelly has officially been nominated as Donald Trump's secretary in the Department of Homeland Security. We thought this was coming, and now apparently it is official. He will be nominated.
And should he be confirmed, he'd be the first non-lawyer to hold that spot.
All right, another general.
There you go.
Let's hand it over to Heather. We support our military. You did this weekend. You were at the game.
Yes, over at the Army-Navy game.
Yeah.
Good morning to
Gloria.
all of you. And we're talking about first responders in addition to the military and the tough work that they do each and every day. And it is a Fox News alert. Breaking overnight, 2 police officers once again shot in the line of duty. This brand new video shows a scene just outside of Macon, Georgia. The officers serving a search warrant during a drug raid at a home. When someone inside opened fire, both officers are now in stable condition and are expected to be okay, thankfully. And that suspect, we are now learning, is dead. Well, this comes less than a week after 2 officers were shot and killed in the same state. Our prayers go to their families today. Now to some extreme weather. Mother Nature unleashing her fury on parts of the Northeast, dumping 10 inches of snow in parts of the Midwest. This is a picture from Boston. Snow, sleet, and Arctic temperatures creating these near whiteout conditions in Massachusetts. The monster storm also causing a near catastrophe in snowy Detroit. How terrifying would this be? Nearly 70 Delta passengers sitting helplessly as their plane skidded right off the runway. And then it's a nightmare for travelers in other parts of the country. Nearly 2,000 flights already grounded this morning. Janice Dean has more on this throughout the day. Thanks, but no thanks. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie reportedly refusing several roles in Mr. Trump's administration because he wasn't offered the position of Attorney General. Sources telling NJ.com that the president-elect offered Christie Homeland Security and also VA Secretary, as well as an ambassadorship and also a White House advisory job. Well, the Attorney General spot was ultimately given to Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, who's been nominated for that. Well, just hours from now, a judge in Pennsylvania will decide if a recount spearheaded by Jill Stein can move forward in that state. But it's all over for the Green Party candidate in Michigan. The Supreme Court in that battleground state refusing Stein's appeal to continue a recount. The justices ruling that she had no right to request one to begin with after receiving just 1% of the vote. The election fallout still continues. And those are your headlines.
That's embarrassing. All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
All right, coming up this Monday, as we heard, a blast of winter weather causing a travel nightmare across the country. Hundreds of flights canceled, and the worst apparently still to come. We're live in the middle of the bad weather coming up next.
And President-elect Trump already warned them once, but did they listen? The deal that Boeing just cut with Iran. All right, we're tracking extreme weather right now. Mother Nature unleashing her fury on the Northeast after dumping nearly 10 inches of snow in parts of the Midwest.
Nearly 2,000 flights already grounded at some of the country's busiest airports this morning, and the travel nightmare, unfortunately, is just beginning.
So let's get right to Michael Henrik from Fox 25 in Boston. He's live in Worcester, Mass, in the path of this monster storm. Michael.
Right now we are in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is the second largest city in Massachusetts. So when you talk about travel headaches from Mother Nature, this is one of the spots that we focus in on. And I planned on bringing out the tape measure for you all, but Mother Nature can't seem to make up her mind here. It's already switched over to rain, and we're really only dealing with a couple of inches of fallen snow. And then you look at the roadways. It's the slick spots, the slush, the wetness that folks are going to have to deal with during the heart of the morning commute. That's why here in Worcester and several other school districts have gone on 2-hour delays. Some of the areas that expected even more snow have already canceled school. And then, of course, we'll have to keep our eye on the airport in Boston at Logan Airport as well. The impacts that have been felt over the last couple of days surely will be felt today here in Massachusetts as well. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it. For now, though, I'm Michael Henrik reporting live in Worcester, Massachusetts for Fox News.
All right, Michael, thank you very much.
People are just hoping it moves out before Christmas, because that's when it hurts, when you're trying to get home and you can't.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, we got 2 weeks.
Right. So
we
get
can work
out of
this
here,
out.
Mother Nature.
The one thing when it slams winter, when it slams cities used to the winter, like Syracuse and Chicago and Buffalo, they can handle it. It's when it hits Dallas is the problem.
It's when it hits our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., quarter inch, and they close the town.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in the South where you call for snow and they're like, school's canceled. And then it never snows.
Yeah, you know why? Because Brett Baer doesn't like the snow, so they shut the whole thing down.
There you go. That much control.
Straight ahead. President-elect Donald Trump dismissing the CIA reports about Russia's influence in the election.
I think the Democrats are putting it out because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in the history of politics in this country.
So has the agency been poisoned by politics? Our next guest worked there for 23 years and says yes with an exclamation point and a star next to it.
And listen to this. Do you hear that? Apparently, Christmas music is offensive. Brian, are you offended? Steve?
Right now, I can't put it into words.
All right, a customer leaving that note right there at a Florida diner, creating a carol controversy.
All right.
Hear from the owner coming
I'm going
up.
to hold my ears, make it louder.
It fills the winter air.
Hear them ring.
You hear it everywhere.
Soon it will busy sidewalks.
Some quick headlines for you. After a rift with the Obama administration, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells 60 Minutes he is ready for a new beginning with President-elect Donald Trump.
I think his attitude, his support for Israel is clear. He feels very warmly about the Jewish state, about the Jewish people, and about Jewish people. There's no question about that.
Netanyahu also says he hopes to work with the president-elect to undo the Iran nuclear deal. And thanks to sanctions lifted in that deal, Iran is inking a nearly $17 billion contract with Boeing for 80 passenger planes. This comes as Mr. Trump threatens to cancel an order with Boeing over the price tag for the new Air Force One. Brian?
Thanks, Ainsley. It seems like Israel, by the way, has a lot more allies than it ever did before. Meanwhile, President-elect Trump dismissing the CIA's charge that Russian hackers helped sway the election for him.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it. I think the Democrats are putting it out because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in the history of politics in this country. It could be Russia. I don't really think it is, but who knows? I don't know either. They don't know, and I don't know.
And you know, the FBI disagrees with the CIA. Has the CIA been poisoned by politics under the Obama administration under John Brennan's leadership? Former CIA officer Gary Bernstein joins us right now, who worked there for 23 years. Gary, is Donald Trump, the president-elect, off base?
No, the president's not off base at all on this. Look, over the weekend, you had a report, you had an article in the New York Times, and it was an op-ed. It was an op-ed that quoted an unnamed source who said they believed there was a high degree of certainty that the Russians were involved. Well, that's not credible, first off. Second off, this is the Democratic Party dragging the CIA into a domestic political battle, which is unacceptable. This damages the agency's credibility. It damages them in the eyes of the new administration coming in. John Brennan should know better than to do this. Another point on this is that Mike Morrell, the former deputy director of CIA, was writing in articles and was on television stating that Donald Trump was an unwitting agent of the Russians, which is complete nonsense. It's bloody stupidity. But this was an effort, again, to discredit Donald Trump during the campaign. It's kind of shocking that these guys would do this. And the people that really suffer are agency officers. 90% of them don't want to, 99% of them probably don't want this, but their leadership is in bed with the Obama administration, and this is a last gasp to discredit an incoming administration.
I mean, we see Republicans like Congressman Peter King and Senator John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham, who came out and said, listen, we think the Russians were involved and I want an investigation. Here's John McCain yesterday.
It's clear the Russians interfered. Now, whether they intended to interfere to the degree that they were trying to elect a certain candidate, I think that's a subject of investigation. You can't make this issue partisan. It's too important. A fundamental of a democracy is a free and fair election.
On the premise of an investigation, is Gary Bernstein okay with that?
Well, look, the Senate has the authority to investigate whatever they want to investigate. And the fact that Russia has a thing called RT, Russian television, which is sort of an arm of the government, you know, and there have been arguments that these people should be registered as agents and not as journalists. Look, they can investigate, and clearly they can make determinations on that. But to state, and what the left has been trying to state, is that there has been collusion between the Republicans and the Russians on this. They've made statements like this, and they've stated that Trump was working secretly and that Republicans were working secretly with the Russians, which is total nonsense. Right. It's outrageous, and they'll find when the Russians are dealing with conservatives are going to defend American interests. They're not going to roll over for the Russians. They're going to defend our interests.
Remember when Mitt Romney brought that up, President Obama said the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. Real quick, Mike Pompeo's coming in there. He's going to get confirmed. Everyone seems to think he's the perfect pick. Can he straighten things out when we spell his name right?
Part of the problem over in the agency is they've blended the Directorate of Operations with the DI, the Directorate of Intelligence, and you've got intelligence analysts who have never run operations in their lives in charge of operational elements over there. This is a bloody nightmare. They have got to straighten this place out. He's going to have to fire about 100 people. They're going to have to reorganize that place, and it's going to be a heavy lift. And he's going to need help from people who had experience in ops before, because the asylum is being run by the lunatics over there right now. Analysts are in charge, and they should not be running operations.
So interesting, because when Porter Goss went in there to change things, they essentially told George Bush nothing changes until you get rid of Porter Goss. So I know things can be a little complicated. Gary, thanks so much. You're one of the few people that can talk now that you're on the outside about what happens on the inside. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
All right, coming up straight ahead, a new report on what happened when Saddam Hussein was pulled out of that rabbit hole. Here's a hint. He wasn't such a tough guy after all. And what happens when Ainsley gets a behind-the-scenes tour at the Grand Ole Opry from Larry Gatlin, my favorite Gatlin brother. Okay, I said it.
In California.
Okay, welcome back to Fox and Friends. We start with a Fox News alert.
Just real quick, we're back with you, Heather. We have a Fox News alert, and it's a wave of terror across the Middle East, and it begins right here. For more, Heather, thanks so much for getting up with us early, but you have the details.
Certainly, more than 200 terror suspects have now been detained in Turkey after a weekend of deadly attacks there overseas. Kurdish fighters claiming responsibility for a pair of attacks over the weekend in Istanbul. 44 people, mostly police officers, are dead. And then another attack, a significant one against Christians, killing 25 people in Cairo, a bomb tearing through the city's main Coptic church. And then in Somalia, a car bomb exploding outside a port in the nation's largest city of Mogadishu. At least 20 people were killed in that attack. A brutal dictator living clueless. In a new book called Debriefing the President, former CIA interrogator John Nixon claims that Saddam Hussein complained of cuts and bruises suffered during his capture, while agents grilled him about weapons of mass destruction. Nixon also says that in the final years that Saddam was in power, he was more concerned with writing novels than governing. Saddam was put to death in 2006 for crimes against humanity. A veteran's body, and this is a horrific story, left to decompose in the shower of a Florida VA hospital, left there for 9 hours after he died. A shocking internal new report revealing the major missteps that workers allegedly had tried to cover up. The report pointing out the blatant lack of respect for that deceased veteran who died while in hospice care. No one has been fired for this. It's the latest in a series of incidents uncovering the inadequate care and lack of accountability in our VA hospitals. And a real-life Scrooge stirring up a Christmas Carol controversy at a Florida restaurant. Ainsley brought us a story earlier. The customer leaving this note on the back of a receipt in St. Augustine, writing, quote, "Christmas music was offensive. Consider playing holiday music or less religious-themed music." The owner, Michael Lugo, posted the note online, and it's now going viral. He joined Ainsley earlier to explain how people are responding.
I've never seen so much encouragement. I mean, our Facebook feed, our emails from the restaurant, everything. People are like, please, keep it up. Thank you for taking a stand.
Well, Lugo says the restaurant will keep playing those festive tunes. It's called Michael's Tasting Room, St. Augustine. Check it out. And those are your headlines. Thanks, guys.
That's a good reason to go, right there.
Yeah, 100%. When we're there, I'm going.
All right, good job, Heather. It's sad what's happening across the Middle East, but sadly not unusual. Hey, when you think of Nashville, it's hard not to think of its #1 attraction, the Grand Ole Opry.
And during the winter months, the live radio show takes place at its original home at the Ryman Auditorium, and that's where Ainsley got a very special honor.
It was so cool. I got the amazing opportunity to be a guest announcer for the Grand Ole Opry, the Ryman Auditorium. They also call it the Mother Church of Country Music because it was actually built for revivals, and it is where people like Minnie Pearl, Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, they all had dressing rooms there. That's where they got their start. So not only did I get to share the stage with some great performers, I also got a backstage tour from a very special Fox friend. Check it out. Performed here. We're going to learn about the history and try to see who we can find in these hallways.
43, so that's the time period when folks like George Jones and Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton, Porter Wagner, all those people made their Opry debut, and you would see them on stage, on a Saturday night in downtown Nashville.
And my heart fell at your feet.
The Gatlin Brothers.
One.
All the gold.
Come on, sing it with.
This is the back door, the Grand Ole Opry at the Ryman.
Right.
This is where you've been coming in this door for how many years, Larry?
45 years. We came right in here, and this first dressing room was Mr. Acuff and Minnie Pearl's dressing room.
Can't you hear the bells ringing?
Hello. I was looking through the program of everyone who's a member of the Grand Ole Opry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this person sang a song that helped me through my high school breakup, and this person sang a song that helped me through college.
I'm sign this for my granddaughter.
Oh, of course.
For Carter, and this one is for Campbell, granddaughter. On behalf of all of us at the Grand Ole Opry, the Grand Ole Opry welcomes Ainsley Earhart as guest announcer December 9, 2016, Ryman Auditorium, Nashville, Tennessee. I love you, sweetie. God bless.
God bless you. That's cool.
Isn't she marvelous?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, get off
okay.
Of all the other gals, I'm gonna stunk you, take your place.
That is awesome.
Fantastic.
So here's a question. What was the song that helped you through that high school breakup?
There were so many.
Every country music song.
I have like 5 million going through my head right now.
It makes you want to break up with somebody after hearing a country song.
If you do break up, there is a country song that will help you get through it.
Absolutely.
I promise.
On the radio right now. That is so cool.
Thank
and
you.
so many big stars live around Nashville. That's why there are so many there every week.
Nashville is such a cool city. Everyone was so nice to us. And it's just one great big family.
And you're so hard, and as Steve knows, you're very hard to get along with, so it's very rare. But the lineup that you had, that's unbelievable lineup that you had that night.
And Vince Gill and his wife, Amy Grant, he's married to Amy Grant, they performed the next night there. So it's just, you can go to Nashville, and if you can go in a bar, and there are like 3 live bands that are playing in one bar at a time. The Grand Ole Opry, they do 4 performances every week, so you can go and see like 15 people sing in one night.
Right, and that means 15 bars. And I encourage 15 bar visits every time you go to
We didn't have time to do that, so can we take the show on the road so that we can go out one night?
All right, I know some people.
Okay,
all right, good job.
Thank you.
And it looks like the book did well over the weekend.
Thank you for saying that.
That's great. Meanwhile, here's what the mainstream media thinks about President-elect Trump's pick for Secretary of State.
I wish I could say that Ben Carson was the only person who didn't have experience in his area, but as you mentioned, Tillerson, I think what we have are ignoramuses, billionaires, and a few generals.
And she's a Republican. But what do they know about big oil? Our next guest is also an oil executive with friends, including Mr. Tillerson, and that guy's coming up next.
Plus a huge show still ahead. You want an example? I have some time. Good. Newt Gingrich, John Bolton. Yeah, we're bragging.
Critics from both sides of the political aisle questioning ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. Apparently Trump's pick.
I am concerned about his relationship with Russia. We want to make sure that the Secretary of State is a person who represents America.
It's a matter of concern to me that he has such a close personal relationship with Vladimir Putin, and obviously they've done enormous deals together.
Some are also wondering how an oil exec can be America's top diplomat. But with oil as the world's bargaining chip, is that really a bad thing? Joining us right now is a guy who knows Tillerson well. He's the CEO of Murray Energy, Robert Murray, joining us today from Cleveland. Bob, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Okay, so what do you make of the criticism that this guy, Mr. Tillerson, is pals with Vladimir Putin because he's been doing business with Russian entities?
I think that'll be a positive, Steve.
Why?
I've known Mr. Tillerson for about 5 years through the Boy Scouts of America and our activity there. I have followed his career since he became president of Exxon in 2004. He'll make an outstanding Secretary of State.
Okay. You know, he was against the U.S. sanctions against Russia because, as I read this morning in the Wall Street Journal, apparently in 2014, those sanctions were costing ExxonMobil $1 billion a year. So if you're the CEO, you hate to see that money go out the door.
He'll be representing the United States of America now. He is a great diplomat. He's had to be to run the 5th largest company in the world. We've had incompetence for the last 8 years under John Kerry and the Secretary of State, before that Hillary Clinton, under Barack Obama. We have lost a lot of respect in the world, Steve, for the country, for the United States. He'll bring that back. Donald Trump said that he would surround himself with the very best people while he was on the campaign trail, and he certainly has a mandate to do that. And he is doing that. Rex Tillerson is one of the best choices he could ever make as Secretary of State of our country, sir.
It's interesting. He clearly is not a politician. You say he's a diplomat. Tell us something about this guy we don't know.
Well, he's produced something for society. For the last 8 years, we've had political hacks in the Obama administration. Haven't had a job, never created a job. This man has produced a product for society. He knows how the world works. He is one of those who Mr. Trump has surrounded himself, who have done something in their lives, including creating a job for someone. There are no political hacks here in this new administration, Steve.
You know, Donald Trump made it very clear he wanted to drain the swamp. So if he was just going to, ask for another politician to be in that job, it would be one thing. But for this guy to bring in a titan of industry, that says something about his particular pick. He thinks this is the guy to get the job done.
That is correct, and he will. And his other choices, if you notice them, they are not political hacks that none of us ever heard of from the Democrat Party. These are people who have done something in their lives, created a product for the good of society.
Well, it's interesting because apparently this guy wound up on Donald Trump's radar because he, in November, talked to Condi Rice and to Bob Gates, former Secretary of Defense, and they both suggested Mr. Tillerson, Mr. Trump should take a look at him because they thought he would be cabinet material.
That is correct. And I think he'll be a wonderful diplomat for the United States of America, Steve, now that he will be representing our country rather than his corporation.
Bob, before you go, I know shortly after he was elected president-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump called you up on the phone. What did he say?
He said, tell your coal miners I've got their back. And then he said, I love you, man.
That's great. And I'm sure he does because you helped get him the keys to Air Force One. So Bob Murray, the CEO of Murray Energy, thank you, sir, for joining us today from out in Cleveland.
Thank you, Steve, for having me, sir.
A real pleasure. And Merry Christmas to you, sir. Happy holidays. All right, straight ahead. What does Newt Gingrich think about Rex Tillerson? He's going to join us live at the top of the hour. And it's Court TV like we've never seen before.
Man up, take responsibility, and be careful on the road because we're all out there. And if you're driving next to me, I'm stopping the vehicle, getting out, and calling a cop.
The newest judge on a TV show called Hot Bench is here next. But first, on this date in 1982, Hall & Oates, top of the charts, Maneater.
All right, some quick headlines now. The rescue edition. A deputy springs into action to save a toddler's life. You can see on this surveillance video Deputy Steve Donaldson performing CPR after a 15-month-old suddenly stops breathing in a Tampa tax collector's office. Deputy Donaldson later honored as an everyday hero. And an adventure in the woods turns into a nightmare for two young boys. Police and firefighters called in after the kids wandered into deep mud in Maryland. One of the boys trapped up to his waist when he tried to help a friend get out of the mud. Neither child, thankfully, was hurt.
That happened to Brian on the golf course. We'll show you that video one day.
do have
You lost
that.
your shoes. It's Court TV like we have never seen before.
You, sir, are essentially a menace to the people of this community driving a vehicle without a license, without registration, without insurance, and you don't even understand the meaning of the concept of right-of-way. So man up, take responsibility, and be careful on the road because we're all out there, and if you're driving next to me, I'm stopping the vehicle, getting out, and calling a cop.
Wow. And he was smirking at you. God.
Yes.
All right. Judge Judy's brainchild, Hot Bench, is back with a brand new face.
Here with more, the show's newest judge, Michael Corriero. Good morning to you, Judge.
Good
morning, Judge.
All of you. Good morning.
What is a hot bench?
Well, hot bench is actually a legal term and refers primarily to an appellate court where the judges are prepared, engaged, and interactive, and they try to use a dynamic opportunity to get at the heart of the matter.
So you interview the person while they're standing there?
Absolutely, and frankly, in an appellate situation, there isn't the kind of traditional cross-examination, and so it's the judges themselves that do the cross-examining and try to...
How much background do you get?
...focus on the issue.
Do you get a lot of background on
we get a synopsis of the complaint and the defense, and so we have an idea of what the issues are in the case when we come out
And
on the bench.
there are 3 judges on the show, right?
3 judges, which makes it very challenging because, for 28 years I was a judge in the criminal courts of New York. So by myself, complete control of the outcome. Now I have to use my skills in trying to persuade my colleagues on the certitude and the rightness of my decision.
It's hard to work with 2 other people. Just kidding.
Well, you see,
we're on a hot couch.
You understand that this
Go ahead.
true. It's true.
Judge, I love the way you got the job because you know somebody in the business, and it's Judge Judy.
It was. Judge Judy and I met each other as young lawyers, and we were adversaries. I was a criminal defense lawyer. I was assigned to represent a 12-year-old boy who was accused of murder. But after speaking to this young boy and doing an investigation, I was really persuaded that he was innocent and that he was taking the weight for an older boy who faced greater punishment because he wasn't considered a juvenile. He would have been tried as an adult, whereas my client was in the juvenile court, the family court. So I went to the young prosecutor who was my adversary, and I said, you really have to look very carefully at this case. I really truly believe my client is innocent. And I said, and he's willing to take a lie detector test. And I was surprised because the prosecutor really had an open mind about this and embraced that idea. My client passed the lie detector test, and the prosecutor's material witness failed.
And the prosecutor was?
Judy Scheinlin,
Wow.
Judge Judy.
What happened to that kid? You saved his life.
Well, I think both of us worked together to prevent an injustice, and that's what really cemented us in terms of a friendship and a matter of respect, even though we were often on opposite sides of the
Judge,
coin.
do you feel like a judge actor, or is that really you up there? Did it take some, like a little bit of practice to be yourself?
I think that it took me a lifetime of a career to finally find out who I really was. And I'm really enjoying the opportunity to be there, but we're not really acting, we're responding as judges. As I say, I was a judge for 28 years, and so we're not scripted. We go out there, sometimes the responses are unexpected, and we have to bring to bear our knowledge of the law and our understanding of human nature to resolve these
when can we
issues.
watch it? You're in your third season.
We're on CBS. May I mention CBS?
Sure.
Too late.
CBS at 9 a.m.
That's here
Monday
in New York
through
City.
Friday, here in
You're
New York City.
syndicated across the country?
Syndicated across the country.
So check your local showtime
Yes,
for
please.
listing.
Please do.
All right.
Thank
Judge,
you so
thank you.
much.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And welcome to TV.
Thank you.
We have a Fox News alert. It has happened again. 2 police officers shot in the line of duty. The breaking details at the top of the hour.
Also, Newt Gingrich joins us. What he thinks about President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State. Good morning to you, Speaker. You're next on Fox and Friends.